So welcome to month 6, June of OMG this year. This month the topic is thoughts. I hope everyone did their homework from last month. We may touch base on that a little bit later on, but I want to get straight into thoughts. Last month was reflections, and the month before was love, for those who remember. So, of course, thoughts kind of fits straight in to where we left off last month. Thinking, thoughts. And one of the big questions for this month is, are you having your thoughts, or are your thoughts having you? And that's the question. Are you having your thoughts, or are your thoughts having you? Don't worry about the answer of that right now. Okay, this is something that we're going to discuss together. But the first question to start off a discussion today is, what do you know about your thoughts? Let's gather our thoughts or feelings about our thoughts. What do you know about it? What is your thoughts to you? You can share how you use your thoughts. You can share what your thoughts mean to you, who you think your thoughts are, whatever you want to share. I just want to gather different thoughts or feelings about that topic, and then we can start dissecting it and going deeper and deeper into it. It is a bit chilly, isn't it? Yeah, I didn't bring a jumper. Maybe, are you guys chilly, or is it just me? Yeah. Well, I do have my leather jacket there, but all right, don't worry, I'll be fine. Let's get started. So who's got a thought about that? What's your thoughts to you? How do you use your thoughts? What do you know about your thoughts? Hang on, microphone please. It's very quick, it just comes. Is that on? Yeah, thanks.
They provoke an emotional response in you.
Okay, so they provoke, so what you think about will create an emotional response also. So yeah, we know that about thoughts. Yep. What else do you know about your thoughts? Microphone.
Sometimes it feels like they're addictive, like sometimes the same old stuff going over and over, and then stop it, and then it'll come up back again.
Yeah, very good point. So it almost feels like the more you think, the more you got to think. It's like you got to. It feeds the thinking, feeds the thinking, as well as evokes emotions. Yeah. Thank you. Microphone.
They're like insights as well. So it's not always, sometimes they're noisy when you're addicted to them, but at other times, they provide wisdom as well.
Okay, so when are those times? When is the time? So it's a good point. So sometimes it's noisy, or the word is it's heavy. Okay, noisy or heavy. But other times it's light, and it comes from silence. Right? So, and it gives you wisdom. Very good. So, when are those times?
When I'm not attached to them. It's almost like they come through me.
Okay, so they come through you.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Perfect.
I feel like the thoughts that are coming from my true self are coming from a feeling, whereas the thoughts that are coming from my head are built, sort of fabricated out of my life, my ego.
Yeah. So the thoughts that come from your true self come from a feeling. Elaborate on that.
They would be, when you talk about pondering, I feel like I ponder from a feeling and ponder from a higher energy, if you like, whereas if I was thinking, then I would be thinking about myself in relation to something or using my judgment from my past or current experience.
Yep. Okay, let's go with that right now. We're going to drop in a little bit deeper than that, but that's great. Spot on. See, so far our realization is when it's coming from our true self, what's the word you use, I think, it comes from a feeling. So the feeling arises and then it provokes a thought of some sort, which gives you some kind of insight. Okay? Microphone?
I have two different kind of thoughts or feelings about that. Sometimes when I have thoughts in my mind, I just it just drains my energy. I just feel really tired and it's like it's controlling me.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's like give me more energy to move. It's like it's coming from my heart and something jumps in my head and it gives me lots of energy to like work on it.
Very good. So you've got a thought that drains you, which is the heavy one we spoke about. We've got a thought that's light that we spoke about that energizes you. All right, guess what? You will notice this today. Because when we're talking about thoughts, it's hard not to think about it. Okay? So this is today's very simple, right? But it can be very tough and very draining if you begin to think about what's being spoken about. Does that make sense? I mean, it's hard not to think about thoughts when we're talking about thoughts, right? So just notice, some of you by the end of the day will be really drained because you've been really absorbing in your head. It's like the month of ego. When we spoke about ego, it's hard not to get into your ego that month. It's hard because your attention's on it. It's hard not to, come from ego when we're speaking about it. Yep.
I've noticed that when you can have that initial thought, that light thought, and then you have the other thoughts that come in and try and justify those thoughts and put reason around it, which makes it heavy and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have light thoughts, the inspirational thoughts, and then you go and think about what thought you've had. All right? Those light thoughts are more, if you like, can I use your word creative thoughts? They come from your creative side, which is the part of you that creates, right? But then you go and think about how you can create it, to give you an example, and then suddenly you get heavy and draining. Then you're like, where did that go? Okay, very good point. Any other thoughts about it? Yes.
Thoughts are a form of communication with myself or with others.
Yes. So
They're like the last step before we make an action or we speak up.
So the form of communication between you and others,
Or between, like, for myself.
or between you and yourself.
Yeah.
So who is the you and yourself?
Yeah, it's another step when the thought or something is getting more finite.
Yep.
I
Okay.
don't know,
So this will lead me to the next question, which is what you've brought up right now. Why do we have thoughts? You, as the one, manifested yourself into the many, right? Why did you manifest thoughts? Because do you think that you as the one energy thinks? Let's answer that question first, because I don't want to put you on a tangent. Does the one think? You as the infinite energy, does it think? Who thinks yes? Who thinks no? So everyone says no. Well, that's a really big realization, right? And if you're unsure, just go back to the time where we did the oneness meditation, which is to get you to the closest point of being completely one in the WTF experience. When you go out into the universe, when we did that meditation together, okay, when you did that oneness meditation, you got to a point where you felt nothing. But within that nothing, you felt everything. So what you're feeling is infinity. What you're feeling is oneness. Oneness is infinity. Right? In that moment, check it out. All right? Just so we don't confuse ourselves and make it heavy today. In that moment, was there any thoughts? There wasn't thoughts. You could, I guess, some of you may have thought about the experience you're having and brought thoughts there, but in the experience, there was no thoughts. Was there? Who had thoughts in that experience? Possibly. Like I said, you may have thought about the experience, but when you're in the experience, there's no thoughts. Here's another question for you. Who had feelings? Okay. All right. Some of you have got your hands up. Some of you don't. So this is the next thing I want to tackle this month, right? Who didn't have any feelings in that moment of emptiness? Put your hand up if you had no feelings. 2 or 3 of you, 4 of you, 5 of you. Hang on a sec. Did you have a question? No, you just put your hand up. Hang on, just microphone, please. Thanks.
I just wanted to say it wasn't really a feeling. It's the sixth sense that you're sensing, not feeling.
Okay. Very good. I'll just get you to sit outside the circle, please. Very good, very good. Okay. So, all right. So, can I ask you, Sandy, if I can keep the microphone for a sec? How would you describe, this is difficult, right? But how would you describe how you felt? Bless you.
Well, you asked that question, what matters? Just nothing matters. It's like
So what did that feel like?
It's just like you're floating, weightless, thoughtless. But it is that intuition, the sixth sense that you're sensing, not really feeling.
Okay, very good, thank you. Let's bring the microphones around. So let's just say one thing. We've established that there's no thoughts there, right? In that moment, there's no thoughts. So what we're trying to establish now is, well, what are we feeling then? Because that's the only thing we have. We have feelings and we have thoughts, right? Is there anything else we have besides that? Maybe.
I would describe that feeling as a vibration or a hum.
Okay. So tell me about that hum. I mean, what does that hum feel like?
It feels like a frequency.
So what is the frequency?
Love.
Okay, great, thank you. Yes?
I felt like I was the space around me.
So what does that feel like?
Just spacious. Like, it was kind of like everything but nothing.
Okay? Everything but nothing. Okay? Great, just notice these, and notice, I'm going to ask you in a moment, you're going to see there's a common thread with these. these descriptions. Microphone?
What it feels like is like when I think, it's always a reference point from something within the story.
Mm-hmm.
So then being in like meditation when you're out, it's not even really a feeling, because the feeling probably came from an inkling of a thought about the spaciousness of nothing.
Okay. Interesting words. You're describing, you said, you're saying about the spaciousness of nothing, right? And then you're saying the feeling of the spaciousness of nothing is not really a feeling.
It's like a thought.
It's like a what?
Like a thought about the spaciousness of nothing.
But there's no thoughts in the spaciousness of nothing.
So maybe bring out
I
that.
understand what you're saying, because I don't want to lose you. I understand what you're saying. When you think about the spaciousness of nothing, you create a feeling.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Right? But what does it feel like in the spaciousness of nothing?
Total expansion, and it's just nothing. Just potential.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Can you see the difficulty in trying to come up with a word everyone is having to describe nothing? But it's not the nothing that is nothing, it's the nothing that is everything. Like we spoke about when we spoke about love. Within the nothingness of love is everything. So then here's a point that can come up now. Love, the one love, the love that is from nothing, actually doesn't have a feeling. Your thought about that creates the feeling. Can you sense, as Sandy put it beautifully, can you sense what I'm saying to you? Let me give you a little bit of tangibility of that, of what I just said. Alright? Thoughts and emotions / feelings. Right? Duality. So, even in love, I'm talking about unconditional, infinite, universal love. There's no feeling in love. How you think about that creates a feeling, and you go, love, it feels like. But we need to describe the feeling because we communicate. Which is why we created thoughts. You, as the one infinite being, manifested yourself into separation. Then you created thoughts so you can communicate between the separation and you can identify between the separation. Which brings me to one point for you. All thoughts are linked to the external or to form. Can you see? The moment I am describing the nothingness, I am bringing it into form, which makes the nothingness something which is actually no longer what I'm actually talking about. I say this in the WTF when I speak in the WTF. The moment I speak of the truth, it's no longer the truth, it is now a version of the truth. Because thoughts can only be attached to a form. So anytime you notice yourself thinking, you're thinking to some physical form. You're thinking of a form of something. Your thoughts are linked to a form. That's why you manifested your thoughts. So you can identify to form, and then you can communicate about form or to another form. But in the nothingness, you see, this is where I talk about people being woo-woo. Woo-woo is about it's about chasing the form of that love. Do you understand? It's the form of that love. It feels like, well, you feel this, but the moment you speak, the moment you pursue love, you are pursuing the form of it. But in the formless, which we described as the nothingness, the space, can you sense what I'm saying? Because you cannot even identify with it. I was catching up with my friend in LA just a couple of weeks ago, and we were in Venice. And has anyone been watching the webisodes? Those crazy webisodes. And him and I were playing this tennis game, and he's a cool guy from Venice who, is very aware of a lot of the things we're talking about. And in that webisode, which I hope it makes it one of, because I never know what makes the webisodes. There's always the camera filming things, and then they just pull out whatever they want from it. And sometimes it can be taken out of context, but either way, it's amazing because it gives people an amazing experience. But the point is this: I'm there having a conversation with him, and I'm saying to him in my conversation, because in Venice Beach, there's a lot of woo-woo, it's woo-woo, I'm really spiritual kind of stuff, right? And again, I'm using the word woo-woo when it is someone who is pursuing the form of the truth. How do you know they're pursuing the form of the truth? Because they have modalities, they have practices, they have disciplines that they follow, which is the form. And when I follow this modality, when I do this practice, then I get the feeling that I'm pursuing, which is the form of the nothingness. And I'm having this conversation with him about that because he's from Venice. And I'm like, can you see, there's a lot of people here who are practicing, they have disciplines. It's because it's now, by the way, cool. It's now hip to be spiritual or to be about love. But the love they're pursuing is the form of love. And I said to him, which is really cool. I'm not in judgment of that. That's really cool. I remember back when I was 12, 13, 14, 15, hanging out with my mates. And then I would have a conversation at a party and go, I felt this thing and it's all about the universe, and I would use the word, and then they would go, Amir, shut up with this universe crap. But now I went to a party, to this guy's party, my friend Oren, I went to his party, and there was all these spiritual people, and everyone was talking about love and expressing their creativity. When they were eating, I would notice people blessing their food and different, which is sometimes what I call woo-woo, right? Because it's a discipline. Again, now, and I'll cover that maybe later on this afternoon, about disciplines and all that kind of stuff. But I'd rather have that. I'd rather have people being woo-woo and, being in pursuit of the form of love than everyone talking, going, stop with that crap. But my point is, it's become cool. It's become hip now. I was having, and this stuff's coming out early. This is usually this afternoon. But I was having I took Sally to Cafe Gratitude. I don't know if you guys heard of Cafe Gratitude. Awesome. It's a vegan restaurant and it's beautiful food. All the food's made with love and all that kind of stuff. It's amazing. I really love their desserts. Nothing else because I'm more into meat, right? Organic meat. But anyway, so I went in there and I looked around and I go, Sally, have a look around. Everyone was walking in with a yoga mat, because it's cool to have a yoga mat behind you to say, hey, I just did yoga. It's a cool thing. You guys should see it. Doesn't happen as much here. It's like, I'm sure I saw someone get out of their car with their yoga mat. I was like, well, you could have left it in the car, but no, I'm coming because I want to show you that I just came from yoga. And that's what I'm saying. That modality of yoga, okay, there is a lot of insights in that, but so many are just doing it because to be accepted, to be part of the do you understand? They're after the form of what yoga is trying to say. I will continue that conversation later this afternoon. I don't know why it came up earlier. I did this program in this session in Melbourne, and that came out later in the afternoon, but it came up earlier. So I do want to continue first to establish and dissect more about thoughts before we go into all that stuff. Because all those modalities come from a thought. I'll talk about it this afternoon. So, in that moment of nothingness, right, and feel free to correct me if you feel what I'm saying is wrong. In that moment of nothingness, there's no thoughts, but what we're looking like we're establishing now is that there's actually no feelings either. But then you think, well, that leaves nothing. No, that leaves everything. And within that everything, that is something you sense within your knowing. There is that's infinity. And you pull from that and bring into physical, in your physical relations, you bring in thoughts and you bring in feelings. And there's two types of feelings, as we've covered in the WTF experience. You have feelings, which someone said over here, Malcolm it was, which is reactions from the thinking you're doing, right? But then you have, so that's emotions, but then you have feelings, which is when you think about the infinity, if you like. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So it's like I said, in the moment of the nothingness, you didn't feel anything. But the moment you thought about what you're experiencing, you created a feeling, and then you call that love. Microphone.
So are you saying that when we're in the space, because when you ask the question about whether we're feeling anything, when I'm in that space and I realise my body, I'm experiencing the space, I can notice that stuff's going on in my body. Like sometimes I'll get, I don't know, it feels like tingles going up my spine or something. But you're saying when I'm noticing that's when I'm taking myself out of that space?
No, that's when you're interpreting the space. When you interpret, it's almost like you bring your thought about, well, what's going on here, right? Sometimes when you're completely deep in that space, you don't even bring your thought to go, hey, what's going on here? And it's amazing. And then when you come out of it, you're like, what just happened? Because there's no thought of what just happened. You can't even interpret what just happened. But when you do interpret what happens, it creates a feeling. Okay, let me put it this way. I had in our OMG circle in Melbourne, I had a lady there by the name of Louise, who last month's OMG I gave her homework, okay, because she was having these things come up, and I wanted her to experience this nothingness that we're talking about. But the nothingness is not just experienced in sitting in meditation, right? It's experienced in your everyday living. Okay, when you're coming from infinity, you're experiencing it in your everyday living. So I said to her, what is it that you love to do? And it came up, I know what she loves to do because she's done it in previous OMGs, and what she really loves to do was the paint. But she doesn't paint. So I gave her homework, and I said to her, I want you to come back next month with a painting of how you're feeling. Okay? So she's connecting to how she's feeling, and she's painting it. And I want you to paint how you feel about OMG, about your experiences of OMG, right? In other words, don't come back until you've kind of done that kind of conversation, right? And this month she came in, and I actually posted on my Facebook page her painting, which was really amazing. Like, it blew the whole circle away. Everyone was just like, wow. So you can check it out on my Facebook page. And she did this painting, and you could just feel, and she decided to paint her self-reflection, because last month was about reflection. So she put herself in the mirror and painted what she felt. And so in other words, she painted herself. And you can feel that what I'm interpreting, I can feel it, right? There's a feeling. But when I asked her questions about, tell me about the process of you painting this, right? At first she said, well, I didn't know what to do, so I just started painting. Like, she just kind of just started painting anything, right? And it wasn't really happening. She was just painting. But there's a point that she got to where she dropped into the nothingness. Okay? And I asked her, in that moment, how did you feel? She couldn't put any word to how she felt. In that moment, there's no feeling, but when you interpret that feeling, you could say, I feel this way. Think of a moment when you're completely in the zone. Okay? When you are in the zone, you're not, and this is what I say when I talk about in the WTF, there is no positive or negative feelings. But when you take the positive and negative feelings and discharge them, there is a feeling of infinity. But a feeling of infinity is actually no feeling that could be, it's a neutral feeling, which I talk about all the time. But I'm trying to bring out in here right now and say, well, that neutral feeling is a feeling of nothing. But it's the feeling of nothing that you feel everything in. So there's no thoughts, there's no feelings. Now, if you're trying to interpret that here, you're like, what do you feel then? You feel everything. But you don't feel one thing. You feel everything.
So I guess, like, if I take myself back to where I'm in that space, and you can't describe it as a feeling; it's an experience. But I guess when I go from that experience and instead of being in that experience, I'm sort of like, oh, what's going on now?
Yeah.
Like you say, a thought, then you're like, oh wow, there's this feeling on my spine, I'm all tingly, I feel great, I feel alive, I feel loving. That's what you mean, isn't it?
Yeah, and then you try to duplicate or replicate that feeling. And then you create a form or a practice or a discipline to do something to continuously have that feeling.
And that's
But
what
that
you-
feeling
yeah.
that you had there is just an expression or an interpretation of the nothingness.
Exactly. And that's when you're chasing that experience or the feeling rather than just being in that experience for the
Yeah.
experience. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Did someone have their hand up?
I just want to go back to you talking about yoga.
Yeah.
And I totally see what you're getting at. But I just wanted to bring up that I practice yoga. I don't do it all the time. It's not something that I'm disciplined with. I do it when I feel like doing it.
Yeah.
And for me, when I do yoga, and this is, I'm sure, the practice for many people, you have a lot of stuff coming up in your body. I've definitely felt it since I've been coming to these meetings and things like that, and I find that yoga really helps you get present, and the things that are going on in your body, emotions that your body's attached to, it's an amazing space to be able to be in, to sit with that stuff and let that come out of your body and not have the reasoning and the whys and the questions about what's going on. Yeah.
I agree. But this is, and I'm glad you brought that up, all right? But this is the thing. Yoga is doing what it's doing because you programmed yoga to do that. It's not the yoga. Okay? Let me elaborate on that. All right? Since this is around the modalities is coming up, let's looks like I'm meant to continue that. Yeah. So here's the thing. So thanks for the question. Or the comment. Okay. Let's take a step back. We said that there is two types of thinking. The thinking that's heavy, yes, that you feel heady, and there's a thinking that's light, and you feel light and you feel inspired, and that's when you get the insights from. That's where I talk about pondering. Yes? Okay. The question I asked you at the very beginning is, are you having your thoughts, or is your thoughts having you? Right? Which is what I want to discuss now. All right. Your thoughts, no matter how big or small they are, how positively or negatively charged they are, don't have control. Their power, the truth is, it doesn't actually have any power. Right? So most people think, well, what I think about, I bring about. Yes? I fly on planes all the time. I flew on a plane 2 days ago. Do you know how many people who I meet who have a fear of flying? Heaps of people fly and they are scared of flying. And even the ones who are not scared of flying, do you know how many times they think, oh my God, what if we crash? Who's ever thought about that, flying? Be honest. You think about it all the time. Who flies here? All right, you don't think about that? Have you never thought, oh, what if we crash? Okay. Well, I meet a lot of people who do. Right? You don't. Some of you do. Right? My point is this. Because you thought that, does that mean the plane's going to crash? How many times did you think that and the plane didn't crash? Here's the thing. Your thoughts are like a computer. You as the one manifested yourself into separation, and you manifested the part of you that is human to have intellectual thoughts. All right? And some animals have limited intellect. Doesn't apes have some kind of intellect? They got something, right? And I always say in the WTF, you can use your thoughts to lose yourself, or you can use your thoughts to find yourself. So your thoughts are like a computer, right? If I get my computer out right now, right, my computer, right, doesn't have any control of its own. I tell my computer what to do. I've even programmed my computer to do some things on itself. Make sure the clock is working, it runs by itself. Every time I come into the office or into my home, it automatically links to the internet. It's like autopilot. It does those things itself, right? But why does it do those things? Because I programmed it to do that. Does that make sense? If you like, I designed my computer and I tell it what to do. When I get onto my computer later on tonight or tomorrow, I will tell it what to do and it will do it, right? Your thoughts is like the computer. So you use the thoughts to tell it what to do. However, the thought begins to recognize itself as a thought. In other words, the computer begins to go, hang on, I'm running this myself. It begins to think, I have some control here. But the control that it has is the control I gave it. It's a computer. Does that make sense? So your thoughts begin to realize the thought itself. Not realize who's using the thought. It begins to realize that I am a thought and I have my own, I'm awake, if you like. But it's not. It doesn't have any control. Your thinking up here begins to realize itself as the thinking. And you use the word, I am thinking. But the thoughts are not you, right? The thoughts is what you use as your tool. But how many of you have, and maybe still are, interpreting your thoughts as your thoughts? In other words, you're not saying, this is my computer. You're saying, I am the computer. You're not saying, these are my thoughts. You're saying, I am the thought. In other words, if the thought said, no, you're ugly, you said, I'm ugly. Does that make sense? One is using the thoughts, instructing the thought. And within this body, within this computer, I have programmed some things to happen automatically. I'm hungry. Okay, I'm going to go eat. You know, just automatic things, autopilot things, beliefs, everything, all that kind of stuff, right? But all those things are working because I told it to. I put power in it to. When I say I, I'm talking about I as the infinite one. I as infinity. I as the user. I'll give you another example of driving a car. When you go drive your car home tonight, all right, you use the car. It's your vehicle. The car doesn't have control of its own. The car does and is powerful or whatever gets you around because you designed the car. Well, in this case, you maybe didn't design yourself, right? But you are driving the car. But it's like the car begins to realize that it's the car. They're the two different types of thoughts. when your thoughts begin to realize, I am the thought. Do you get that point? People say, I ask people all the time, and I say, well, why did you do that? Because I thought I should. I thought it. But the thought is not you. It's your tools. You use the tool to manifest or create or whatever. Okay? I mean, forget about that word manifest and create right now, because you'll distract yourself. Okay? Because if you really understand who you are, you don't even manifest. We've done a topic manifestation. We did it in month 2. I described to you how manifestation takes place. And one of the first things that I said was that which part of you needs to manifest something? What did everyone say? It's your ego, your thoughts, right? And then I said, an infinite being, the difference between an infinite being and the finite part of you is that infinite being does not need to manifest. It manifests. A, it doesn't need to, like out of need. And B, it doesn't do a process or go into doing process to manifest. It's manifest. Just like right now, you have not done anything. You're not sitting going, manifest. You're manifesting these words right now, but there's nothing you're doing to manifest it. It's manifesting. There's nothing you're doing to make your heart beat. You manifest it to continue to beat. There's nothing you're doing for the blood to continue up your veins right now. You designed it for it to continue. So I just refer back to month 2 when we talk about manifestation, right? So I don't want you to distract yourself right now and go, so if I can use the thoughts, then I can create whatever I want. But you're already creating what you want. Just take a look at your life right now. You are creating, manifesting exactly what you want right now. But you then might have thoughts going, no, I don't want that. And then you go, let's manifest something else. It's like the computer comes alive and goes, I don't like my instructor. Let's manifest something else. And then the computer gets a mind of its own. Which seems like that's the direction we're going. I think the computers are going to have the mind of their own, which is a reflection of the individuals, the drops, becoming the one and having a mind of their own. An infinite mind in a finite world. Infinite, being infinite in the finite world. So you as the infinite being manifested form. Then you manifested from the energy some more separation, which is thoughts. So that you could use these thoughts like a piano and play the piano. But not, or like a computer. But not so you can become the computer. But what happens is the thoughts, because the thoughts are there to communicate or to have references to the external world or to form, then the thought itself sees itself in a mirror, for example, like we spoke about last month in reflection, and then goes, I'm actually alive. No, this body is not alive. Who you are is alive. This body is the computer you're using. And yes, you have manifested things within your story to look after the body. But you gave power to the body. You gave power to the thoughts. beginning to sound a little bit crazy? Yeah. So what I'm trying to say to you is that your thoughts, the only power that you have in your thoughts is the power of perception. You can switch something from being negative to positive, switch something from positive to be negative. But when you are your thoughts, you don't create. You use your thoughts, but don't even go into creation right now, manifestation. When I say you, I'm not saying you that thinks that you are the thoughts. I'm saying you that uses the thoughts. So the question then comes, well, how do you use your thoughts? Think about it. Observe yourself. You go out there, the thoughts come up, you think they are you. Everything that takes place here, you're like that. You think they are your thoughts. No, it's the computer going. If you observe that, you can start to realize that and use it. Reprogram. Because you're the one who programmed it. You don't want to change your thoughts, you want to reprogram it. But to reprogram it, you've got to first observe that you're not the thoughts. And I am going to talk about that this afternoon. How do you use your thoughts? Well, the first thing is to not be your thoughts. Any questions so far? Microphones?
The way I am hearing from this morning discussion is that as human beings, we have the capacity to expand to the point where we touch infinity, we touch who we truly are. However, as human beings, we try to make sense of what is happening. So we go into thought forms, we go into trying to make sense of what is happening and attach value to that. And it made me realize in the importance of not allowing those thoughts, those feelings, those fears, whatever is happening, to make me scatter, that to take energy away from me. And because the more I think about it, it's like I'm giving energy to that. But to sort of bring it down to the point where go back to that sense, to that space where I am one with infinity, I am one. I'm aware, that sense of awareness that I am more, far much more than that thought form or those fears of those thoughts that are taking me away from where we truly are. And all that is all within me. I don't have to go anywhere. It's here.
Okay,
it's
thank you.
in the present moment.
That's a big interpretation. It's very simple. Sounds a little bit heady. But I'll break it down more so it's not so heady. See, just understand something, right? Because what you just described is a good example of what your thoughts are now starting to interpret and going, well, what do I need to do about this? Your thinking is already relating to, what do I do? So I just want you to notice that.
I feel what I want to do in life is what's true for me. And the only way I feel I can do what's true for me is a thought comes up and you make a decision on that thought, and it will take you in one direction or another. I think that in certain circumstances in my life that maybe don't feel right, I'll go to my head and I'll think, I wonder if that will change. But I'm not sure what the line is. Is it the thought that will change, or am I thinking that the feeling will change?
I think the greatest gift of change, the greatest thing that can change for an individual, is for them to realize that what they're experiencing, whether it's a thought or a feeling, or what they're experiencing in their life, is exactly where they're meant to be. Because when you realize that, you're not trying to work it out anymore. The moment you realize what's happening right now is exactly what's meant to be. How do you know it's meant to be? Because it's happening. When someone has a direct experience of that, you no longer need to interpret what's happening or try to determine what I'm meant to do with it. And your question is trying to interpret what's happening and determine what you're meant to do with it. And if you can just realize that right now you're manifesting what you have, what you do, the space you're right now in, that's what you're manifesting. And when you realize it's meant to be, and then you just do what you feel moved to do. Like you just feel moved. But when you think, what am I meant to do? Then you're looking for what's true for me.
Because whatever you manifest, you then go back to your head and you'll judge whatever you've manifested as good or bad, rather than just being one with it and being present and realizing that you're experiencing what you're experiencing because that's where you're at.
Yeah. Right. And there's that the moment you say something's good or bad, positive or negative, you know that's a thought, because all thoughts are charged. The reason it's a thought, it's part of dualism. It's two. You have a positive thought and a negative thought. That's what thoughts are. Or the thoughts are charged. Unless you are using the thoughts. You can only use a thought that's neutral, which is where your creativity comes from, your creative thoughts. But when you're using your thoughts, it's not you thinking. Has anyone ever realized that? It's not you. It's when I'm pondering, I am having my realizations, and I then project them into thoughts, and I'm hearing my thoughts and going, wow, what an amazing realization. But I'm not thinking them. It's like the me, the infinite part of me, is using the thoughts so I can hear what I'm trying to tell myself. Who's ever experienced something like that? That's it there. But like we spoke about in the month of ego, your ego hijacks the realizations and you go, look what I thought. It owns it. And even the feeling when you feel love for something, right? And again, the true love is the nothingness, but then as it gets experienced into form, you feel it. And you go, I feel love for this. And you go, I love to do this. I love to be this, right? But you didn't feel it. You didn't choose that. That came to you. Just like when you fall in love with somebody, You didn't choose, I'm going to fall in love with you. You're the perfect person. And then you don't choose it. You just realize I'm in love with you. You didn't say, I am going to fall in love with you. I choose to fall in love with you. I am in love with you. What I'm trying to get you to realize is that you, as the I that you keep thinking of, doesn't actually have any control. Everything that you chose, that you love, have love for in your life, you didn't choose it. You had a feeling or an awareness, and you go, oh, I love this. And then your ego, the part that's identified with the thought, goes, I chose that I love this. So therefore, what are we going to do about it? Well, I need to decide to do it. It was already freaking decided. That's why I came to you. And then you're like, how? How are we going to make this happen? It hijacks it. That's what we spoke about in the month of ego.
In saying what you just said, are you suggesting that everything's predestined?
Moment by moment. You're predestining it. I mean, it's not predestined, no, to answer your question. Okay, you are manifesting moment by moment. But as you manifest, you become aware of it. Right now, you're manifesting, you're having an awareness of it. But what happens is your awareness gets hijacked. Your love gets hijacked. And then it gets hijacked by the thought that goes, I chose to do this. You never chose it. When someone is in the flow, they do something in the flow, or in the zone, they do something. They never chose it. It was chosen. Let me read you an article which I brought today with me from the newspaper. All right. Is that all right? Okay, so give the mic back. This is, it's amazing. Today's a State of Origin game. Yeah, go the Blues. If I may say that. Any Queenslanders here? Are you a Queenslander, Sandy? I used to like you. So tonight is a State of Origin, and I wore the appropriate colours. But anyway, I'm just rolling on a little bit. I'm just joking around. But I want to read you this article. I was flying to Melbourne on Monday to do OMG. And as I'm flying in the plane, I'm reading the newspaper about the State of Origin. And I found an article that perfectly describes that zone. Perfectly described. I mean, what I'm describing to you right there was the zone, right? And it goes something along the lines of this. I mean, the article is called "There's No Shadow," and it's called "The Strange Story Behind That Kick." So, just to give you a quick little description of the story for those who are not into footy, you will be after I read this. But last year, Queensland and New South Wales, played, and these are big games. There's 3 big games every year, and Queensland and New South Wales played together last year, and it was, this description is of the third game. Third game, 74 minutes into the game, so there's only 6 minutes of the game left, right? The scores are even. So in other words, New South Wales has 1-1, Queensland has 1-1. So whoever wins this game wins the thing, right? So basically, I'll read this to you. It was the moment that sealed the series. The Queensland halfback Cooper Cronk hasn't spoken about this till now. Cronk recalled to the Daily Telegraph his match-winning field goal. So this was the match-winning field goal, 74 minutes into Game 3 of 2012 Origin. So this was last year. The series was locked 1-1. The scores were tied 20-all. Enter Cronk. This is what he said. To be brutally honest, I was in a state of grace at that particular moment. Within those few split seconds of time between actually receiving the ball and landing it at its intended destination, there was no noise in my head whatsoever. No thoughts. Okay? He's describing the space. In that moment, he was in the space. He called it a moment of grace. Was it called that? What did he say? as just to be within them. Okay, so to be brutally honest, I was in a state of grace. Okay, what's that state of grace? Right? So I'll read that part again. Within those few split seconds of time between actually receiving the ball and landing it at its intended destination, there was no noise in my head whatsoever, Kronk said. Every cell in my body came together in one perfect whole. This is a football player describing things. Every cell in my body came together as one perfect whole. But those who have ever experienced that feeling, and it doesn't happen every often, will tell you it's a whole other place of experience from the usual ego or vanity that drives my game. So I'm not afraid to own it for what it was. Check this out. I didn't feel good or bad about myself afterwards. Now he's kicked this kick. It went straight over. He's won the game, won the series. His teammates, I mean, there's the picture there, are all over him, right? He didn't feel good or bad afterwards. Do you notice that? I didn't feel good or bad about myself afterwards. I began to realize when we are being completely free of our own expectation, the body extends into its natural form without impediment, and things happen. What a beautiful description. I mean, that what he's describing there is basically the flow. And he just says how he did it. I began to realize when we are being completely free of our own expectation, the body extends into its natural form without impediment, and things happen. It extends into its natural form. Natural means it was going to happen. Microphone if you're going to speak, please. Like in bag events, yes. So there was no thought. So I'm raising this because every time you're going, I think I want this, and you're trying to think, like, you're trying to go, well, how am I going to get this? See, if there's no thought, he didn't decide for the ball to go over, did he? And if you ask this guy a little bit more, to go a little bit more honest, he will tell you he never decided for that ball to go over. He felt it was going over. If you ask any person, they will go, I know. I mean, I love sports, so I kind of always monitor that. I've seen different interviews where someone's kicked the ball, and before it went over, they knew it's gone over. Because they knew, okay, because that part of them programmed, this ball is going over. And as long as you don't think about the ball going over, and you take away your expectations, which allows you to stay in infinite, but there was no thought. And that ball was always going to go over. Why? Because it was meant to. Why? Because it was programmed to in that moment. And when the ball didn't go over in other games, it was never meant to. Why? Because it was programmed not to. Who programmed it? You. But not you as the thought. You that's behind the thought. You that is having the thought, not the you that the thought is having. You that is having the thought, not the you that the thought is having. The question still raises, are you having your thoughts, or are your thoughts having you?